There are moments in history when the smallest voice carries the weight of a nation, and the quietest figure reshapes the course of power. In a forgotten military outpost perched on the edge of contested land, such a moment unfolded. A moment never recorded in official logs, yet whispered through corridors and remembered by those who stood witness to an unexpected reckoning. The protagonist was known only as Recruit Hale, a recent arrival with no distinguished lineage, no medals, no history that command deemed worthy of reverence. He moved with careful precision, spoke rarely, and observed everything. His hands performed each drill with disciplined grace, reflecting a skill honed not by privilege, but by unyielding practice and moral clarity. To the untrained eye, he appeared insignificant. Yet those who watched closely sensed something unbreakable in his posture, a quiet integrity that refused to bow before false authority. Opposing him was Captain Drever, a man grown fat on unquestioned obedience and ceremonial power. His voice ruled the base like a whip of thunder, and his orders, even the most cruel and unnecessary, were obeyed without hesitation. He cared little for justice and less for honor. During inspection, he singled out those who appeared weak, feeding his command through fear and humiliation. On that morning, under a pale and indifferent sky, Drever issued an instruction that violated both protocol and conscience. He commanded the recruit to falsify inspection results to protect a corrupt supply chain benefiting his allies. The order was clear. So was the silence that followed when Hale did not move. The air itself seemed to tighten. Sensing the approaching storm that in the tense quiet of the parade ground, the captain stepped forward, boots striking stone with sharp, deliberate force. His eyes burned with authority as he repeated the command, each syllable laced with threat. The recruit raised his gaze slowly, unwavering, and in a single motion, placed the falsified document back onto the inspection table. A sharp crack rang out as Hale snapped the paper cleanly in two. The sound echoed across the base, a declaration louder than any shout. Dust stirred beneath his boots as he straightened his spine, his voice low yet steady as steel. I will not obey a corrupt order. Captain Drever froze. His hand, raised to strike, halted midair. The sudden stillness was absolute. A stunned hush cascaded through the assembled ranks. Even the birds ceased their restless song. What followed was a silence so complete it seemed to swallow breath and pride alike, leaving the once feared captain suspended in public disgrace. The shock that rippled through the base was not born of violence, but of revelation. Soldiers who had long endured injustice stood motionless, eyes fixed upon the daring recruit who had dared to challenge the unchallengeable. Drever's face flushed with silent fury, yet his voice would not rise. Authority, when stripped of its illusion, fails to command even sound. Moments later, Major Vorsk, a seasoned superior with eyes tempered by truth, approached the scene. His gaze shifted between recruit and captain, measuring every quiet breath. He bent slightly to observe the torn document, verifying its contents, and then turned toward Drever with a look colder than iron. Is this the standard you uphold? The major asked, his tone measured yet condemning. The captain could not respond. Words stumbled within him, trapped behind the shame now visible to every witness. For the first time, the men saw his power for what it was, an empty performance draped in intimidation. Major Vorsk turned to Hale. What compelled this refusal? Hale replied without arrogance. Honor, sir. and the understanding that discipline without virtue is mere obedience to decay. A tremor passed through the assembled ranks. The truth struck deeper than any blade. In that moment, hierarchy bowed to principle. The major nodded once, a silent acknowledgement not just of courage, but of character. Orders were issued quietly. Drever was relieved of immediate command pending inquiry. The base, long suppressed under fear, breathed anew. The moral lay carved in stone. Authority must be guided by integrity, and obedience must never replace conscience. From that day, eyes followed Hale with reverence, yet he remained unchanged, continuing his duties with reserved composure. He understood that true strength whispers where arrogance demands to roar, and that justice, when earned, stands firm without spectacle. Years passed, and the dust of battle settled over countless campaigns, but the tale of that morning inspection became legend. Recruits spoke of it in hushed admiration during night watches, and officers referenced it during lectures on disciplined command. Yet official records named no hero. It remained an unofficial truth, passed from voice to voice, forged into the moral backbone of a wiser force. Hale rose through ranks not by acclaim, but by consistency. He mentored young soldiers with patience, teaching them that courage is not defiance for glory, but fidelity to principle. Drever faded into obscurity, remembered only as a reminder of what authority becomes when poisoned by self-interest. In his later years, when Hale was asked by a young officer why he had risked everything that day, he looked across the training fields where new soldiers stood under a clean, honest sky. "There is a cost to silence," he said quietly, "and a greater honor in refusal." His words became etched into the unspoken code of the base, a final testament to the wisdom forged through that decisive moment. And so the story endured, not as myth, but as a moral compass carried forward through generations. Power demands obedience, Hale concluded in his final address, but virtue commands respect. Choose which legacy you leave behind. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories from States of History.